afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are here to bring you live coverage of the autism announcement. President Trump says he's going to be making a major announcement with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Oz and maybe others about autism today. President Trump said it'll have something to do with what causes autism and also how to get at least somewhat better. That's what President Trump said yesterday. So we're going to bring live coverage of that announcement, which is coming up in about an hour. There's reporting about what it's going to be, about the announcement. I'll talk about that too. But we are going to talk about that and read your comments and questions on the air. And I don't know what the scientific community will think about the announcement. We'll have to see. Thank you for being here. We're going to have live coverage of the announcement. And before we begin, I want to thank our moderators. Our moderators, I really appreciate it. Hold on, let me pull up this. We have right now, over on Twitch, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai, 3 McBritches are moderating. Hey, thanks to Alex Banking 7 for your support, by the way. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. Oops, I can hear two of myself. Thank you, Alex. Kay Lowry Body is moderating. Margaret Riley is moderating. Thank you. Thanks, Sharon Klassen Goslin and Chuck Mosca for subscribing. Thanks also on Facebook, Andrea Benavides and Rodney Cox and Shivas Walker and others for tuning in. And thanks Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha for moderating on X, and our YouTube moderators as well. Thank you. Okay, so you know what I want to start by doing? I want to show you what, first of all, I want to just mention this real quick. If you're looking for kind of a summary of what autism is, there's a description on the CDC site. So they say, the CDC says autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability caused by differences in the brain. People with ASD often have problems with social communication and interaction and restricted or repetitive behaviors or interests. People with ASD may also have different ways of learning, moving, or paying attention. It is important to note that some people with ASD might also have some people without ASD might also have some of these symptoms, but for people with ASD, these characteristics can make life very challenging. That is from, just a little summary there from the CDC page. All right, so what I want to do is I want to show you what President Trump said yesterday when he announced that he was going to be making this announcement today. Okay, so here's what President Trump said on yesterday. This is yesterday now. This is not today. This is yesterday. Here's what President Trump said about this announcement. Oops. I have a big, see, it says yesterday. So you're not confused. Yesterday. Here we go. Here's what President Trump said about this. I think I have it queued up. Hopefully. Let's give it a shot.
You know what MAHA is? That's right. Make America healthy again. And tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcements, really medically, I think, in the history of our country. We're going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking in the Oval Office in the White House about autism, how it happens, so we won't let it happen anymore, and how to get at least somewhat better when you have it, so that parents can help their child, their beautiful child. That's a big one. I've been bugging everybody over there, get the answer to that. You know, 20 years ago, 1 in 10,000 were born with autism. 20 years ago. The most recent survey says 1 in 12. How bad is that? That's for young boys, baby boys, but also girls, a little bit better. It's about 1 in 20, but we can't, because obviously there was something really wrong, and we think we know what that is. It's going to be, I think it's going to be one of the most important news conferences I'll ever have, and I look so forward to it.
So that's what he said yesterday. He said yesterday the announcement's gonna talk about how it happens and how to get at least somewhat better, according to the Trump administration. You just heard it. BPG Brooke says, I think it's safe to take this announcement with a grain of salt. That's what our viewers said. No, says is the higher rate of it just because we are better at diagnosing it, though. B. Blake said that would be amazing if they had some huge advance in knowledge about it, I believe the viewer is saying. It's in 55 minutes, guys. I'm going to show you guys what is being reported about what the announcement's going to be, okay? I'm going to show you what's being reported about it. Now, obviously, he could say something different than what's being reported, but there's a number of reports all saying something similar about what he's going to announce. Oops, that's not it. We got to do this. So there's two parts of the announcement from what I've seen. One is that Trump is going to claim that Tylenol is tied to autism risk. And then another report is that he's going to also where is it here? Talk about some other possible thing to take to help it. In addition, officials plan to tout a lesser-known drug called leucovorin as a potential autism treatment. So I actually thought this was a nice summary here in the Washington Post. So let's read some of this. Let's read some of this to get you some background here. Again, there's similar reports in several publications about this. The Washington Post says, the Trump administration is expected to unveil new efforts today exploring how one medication may be linked to autism and another one can treat it, according to 4 people with knowledge of the plans. Federal health officials are expected to raise concerns about pregnant women's use of acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, in one of the most widely used medications globally. Officials have been reviewing previous research, including an August review by Mount Sinai and Harvard researchers. By the way, there are some important caveats here we'll talk about, that suggests a possible link between Tylenol use early on in pregnancy and increased risk of autism in children. The administration plans to warn pregnant women against using Tylenol early on unless they have a fever, according to the 4 individuals. In addition, White House officials plan to tout a lesser-known drug known as leucovorin as a potential autism treatment. Leucovorin is typically prescribed to counteract some medication side effects and to treat vitamin B9 deficiency. Early double-blind placebo-controlled trials administering leucovorin to children with autism have shown what some scientists describe as remarkable improvements in their ability to speak and understand others. Officials at the FDA have recently been reviewing language that could apply to the drug. The findings on leucovorin have sent ripples through the scientific community, sparking renewed debate about the complex causes of autism, a condition some experts had recently considered predominantly genetic and therefore largely untreatable. These efforts have been a top priority for President Trump, who has long voiced concerns about rising U.S. autism rates and tasked his deputies with finding answers this year. Again, President Trump said yesterday, President Trump said, tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcements medically, I think, in the history of our country. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism, he said. The Wall Street Journal previously reported that the Trump administration was investigating the role of Tylenol and leucovorin. Current guidelines on the use of acetaminophen, which is in Tylenol, from the major medical societies identify it as a safe pain reliever to use during pregnancy, but advise pregnant women to consult their healthcare providers before taking it, as with all medications during that sensitive period. Tylenol executives have met with the administration in recent weeks to express their questions about the federal effort and discuss next steps. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary of Health and Human Services, has made autism a major focus of his Make America Healthy Again agenda, and there have been high-level administration debates about the timing and content of its autism initiatives, given the political sensitivity and their potential to upend the medical industry, according to 2 people with knowledge of today's announcement. In April, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said, "We've launched a massive testing and research effort that's going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world. By September," he said, "we will know what has caused the autism epidemic and will be able to eliminate those exposures." Those remarks raised alarms among many researchers who said conducting such research accurately requires a lengthy process. Since Kennedy became the nation's top health official, there has been speculation that his agency would link autism to vaccines, a connection Kennedy has referenced regularly despite decades of scientific studies debunking the theory. I don't know if vaccines are going to be mentioned today. You can see here, autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by difficulties in social and communication skills and repetitive behaviors, which has been diagnosed at higher rates among U.S. children in recent decades. 1 in 31 8-year-olds had autism in U.S. communities examined by the CDC, compared with about 1 in 150 in the year 2000. The reasons behind this sharp increase in diagnoses of autism remain widely debated and unclear. Increased testing and awareness play some part, but many researchers believe there are additional factors, probably something in Americans' environment or lifestyles at play, in addition to the more than 100 genes that have been linked to the condition. So a lot of questions out there about what causes autism, why it's been diagnosed more in the U.S. more recently. Again, the Washington Post reports that the 2 things that will be announced today is the administration will claim a tie of Tylenol to autism risk, And also, the administration will tout a drug called leucovorin as a potential autism treatment. Now, I mentioned there are some caveats to all this, which I want to talk about quickly, and then I'll take some comments from you guys. You can see Reuters says Trump expected to link autism with Tylenol, a claim highly disputed. So, Reuters says that President Trump is expected to give an announcement today linking the use of popular over-the-counter pain medication Tylenol to the development of autism during pregnancy. They say it's a claim that many doctors dispute. They say, according to some researchers, there is no firm evidence of a link between Tylenol and autism. By the way, shares of the Tylenol manufacturer consumer health company Kenvue were down 5.5% in trading today and have lost 17% in September, as reports emerged that the administration would link Tylenol to autism. Also, Reuters says decades of studies have not shown cause of autism. Decades of studies, according to Reuters, have yet to establish a definitive cause. But many scientists believe genetics, potentially in combination with environmental influences, play a role. Autism is a neurological and developmental condition marked by disruptions in brain signaling that cause people to behave, communicate, interact, and learn in atypical ways, according to the CDC. Many experts, including the CDC, have largely attributed the autism. So, autism diagnoses in the U.S. have significantly increased since 2000, intensifying public concern. By 2020, the U.S. autism rate in 8-year-olds was 1 in 36, or 2.77%, up from 2.27% in 2018 and 0.66% in 2020. In 2000. So in 2000, the autism rate in 8-year-olds was 0.66%. In 2020, it was 2.77%. Many experts, including the CDC, have largely attributed the autism rate increase to widespread screening and the inclusion of a wider range of behaviors to define the condition, leading to the diagnosis of individuals with milder or more subtle signs of autism. Okay, so again, there's a lot of there's been uncertainty in the scientific community about what exactly causes autism, but at the same time, it certainly seems like if President Trump makes the announcement that is reported that he's going to announce, seems like there's going to be some pushback in the scientific community on whether these claims are warranted. So keep that in mind. I am not a scientific expert, so I can't give you the background on all the science. We're going to take some comments from you guys. So I will be interested to see what the announcement is and what we hear from various scientists about what they think of the announcement. All right, so let's by the way, I'll talk about this in a second. I want to take some comments first. The Washington Post also has an article. The drug that Trump plans to promote for autism shows real and fragile hope. Okay. Let me take some comments from you guys. Too Sweetie thinks this is crazy. Strange says, I think RFK is a crackpot. Oh, hold on. I want to check something here. Hold on. I very well might be getting some video from the White House before it starts. If I get that video, I will put it on the screen. The announcement time is in about 43 minutes if it starts on time. A quick thank you, by the way, to Red Squirrel 82, our member, who says, I got diagnosed with autism in 1996. Thanks for writing in. Thank you, Logan Misiak, who wonders if tech and social media play a part in autism. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Jay Knowswich, our member, Scoobs, our member, Sharon A. Bear, member for 50 months. Thank you. Ben C. says that currently Kenvue is down 6.3%. Yeah, currently Kenvue, who's the manufacturer of Tylenol, is down 6.5% today and over 17% in September. Thanks, Ben C. Thanks, Antonio, for your support. Thanks, Paul Holden, our member. Tower Dragon. Tower Dragon says, I cannot wait for Tylenol to sue the Trump administration. That's what Tower Dragon says. I don't know if they could do that. I don't know if there's some kind of freedom from lawsuits that the government has in this kind of case. They might. I'm not sure. Thank you, Tower Dragon, for your support. Thank you also, Lucas Greenlee, our member. Our viewer, Green Giant, says, think critically, please. BSEC424 says, I was diagnosed with ASD autism in 1993. Zelgeth thinks it's mental health 101. More testing means more cases. That does not mean there are more cases. Jake's Online says there's a warning label on Tylenol about taking it when pregnant. Yeah, as it said here, hold on. Guidelines on the use of acetaminophen from the major medical societies identify it as a safe pain reliever to use during pregnancy, but advise pregnant women to consult their healthcare providers before taking it, as with all medications during that sensitive period. Thanks, hey, Ronin Tarot. Thank you, Ronin Tarot, for your support. Also, Gazaway on Twitch, thank you. Guy from the 207 on Twitch. A guy from the 207 on Twitch says, if RFK Jr. figured out the cause for autism in less than 6 months, I will give my house to charity. Okay. I do want to mention also here, give me one moment here. So again, from what the reporting says, the announcement's going to do two things. It's going to claim there is some link between Tylenol and autism, and also it's supposed to tout a lesser-known drug called leucovorin as a potential autism treatment, according to the Washington Post. There are other articles which say something similar. Okay, now I do want to point out that the New York Times, in their article about this today, say that scientists overwhelmingly say autism results from a complex mix of genetic and environmental factors. Also, the Times says that there has been some research about acetaminophen, which is in Tylenol, and a possible connection to autism. And the New York Times says that studies that have examined the possible risk posed by that to fetal brain development have been mixed. And the Times said many health agencies have evaluated the evidence and decided the findings are inconclusive. We're going to talk about this in a second here. 36 minutes until the announcement. We'll have the announcement for you. Trent Harlan says, hasn't Tylenol been around for a couple hundred years for this point? Tylenol was first marketed, I'm guessing, in the 20th century. Uh, 1955 was when Tylenol was first introduced. 1955. It's been around since 1955. Bumbillion thinks that there is no conclusive evidence that it causes autism. Now, another thing is I don't know, what the announcement's going to be framed as. You could do an announcement where you say, well, we think this one thing might be one of the factors. Or you could say, we think a lot of the cases are caused by this one thing. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what they're going to say. Linda Cosma says, this is an old theory. We knew this when I was a student nurse in the 1970s. Thank you, by the way, to Mr. Joaquim 242. Thank you, Mr. Joaquim. Let me show you something. The Washington Post actually had an article about this leucovorin. Leucovorin. Am I pronouncing leucovorin right? Let me make sure I'm pronouncing leucovorin right. It's also known as folinic acid. I'm not sure. I'm just going to say it the way I think it's said. Leucovorin. Okay, so the Washington Post has something about leucovorin. They say for a select group of autistic individuals, leucovorin may boost communication and cognition in ways once thought impossible. There's a decades-old drug, leucovorin, a form of vitamin B9, which is also known as folate. It has traditionally been used as an antidote to toxic effects of a certain cancer drug. But for a select group of autistic individuals, it may boost communication and cognition in ways once thought impossible. Researchers have found that some individuals with autism have difficulty transporting folate to the brain, a nutrient essential for neurodevelopment, and believe the medication may help deliver it more efficiently. Trump officials are expected to tout the potential of leucovorin at an event about autism today. Researchers say, Robert F. Kennedy may fast track approving it for treatment. That's interesting. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. may fast track approving leucovorin for treatment of autism. Researchers say the hope is real but fragile. We're still on the 10-yard line, said one pediatric neurologist who is studying leucovorin, suggesting the research is near the beginning of the process. But it's something we think might be able to help a lot of children. The Washington Post points out that Kennedy's involvement in setting autism policy has ignited significant controversy within the scientific community since he took office, in part because Kennedy has promoted discredited claims linking vaccines to autism, an assertion that has been debunked by decades of scientific research. Kennedy's office has also been looking into a possible connection between autism and acetaminophen, Tylenol's active ingredient, after an August 14th analysis presented compelling evidence linking prenatal use to an increased autism risk in children. While the study was well received, the online response spun out of control, with some hailing it as definitive proof of autism's cause and others dismissing it as outright misinformation. The Autism Science Foundation said in a statement that more studies are necessary before a conclusion can be reached and does not recommend leucovorin as a treatment for autism. Most of the leucovorin studies involved only a few dozen participants each, and numerous compounds appear promising early on, but fail when subjected to large-scale trials. This is also interesting. The idea of using leucovorin as a treatment is challenging the long-standing belief that autism is solely a fixed neurological difference. It touches a nerve in the politics of neurodiversity, where efforts to treat core symptoms are sometimes seen as attempts to fix what many consider a natural and valuable variation of the human mind. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but anyways, one thing this article says is that there are some promising results, early results, suggesting leucovorin might help some with autism, but it also says, the article, that this research is at an early stage. Okay, we're taking comments from you guys. This is coming up in less than 30 minutes. Less than 30 minutes. And again, I do not know if there will be any discussion today of vaccines in this announcement. Thank you, by the way, to Texas Tiff. She mentioned something about acetaminophen. I was trying to find something, a history of acetaminophen. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go through this. There's a whole thing in the Wikipedia article about it. If you want, you can read the Wikipedia article about acetaminophen, which is also called paracetamol. One of our viewers claimed acetaminophen was banned in Europe. I just Googled it, and I got the response from Google that it is not banned in Europe, but certain forms are restricted. Google said acetaminophen is widely used in Europe and is known there by its chemical name paracetamol. Anyways, I would encourage you to do more research on it if you want. I'm just telling you the Google result I got. Wikipedia says acetaminophen is the most where is it here? Hold on. Acetaminophen is the most commonly used pain medication. Acetaminophen is the most commonly used medication for pain and fever in both the U.S. and Europe. It is on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. Paracetamol or acetaminophen. Hey, a quick thanks, by the way, to 25 minutes till the announcement. Thank you, Mr. Joaquim 242 from Sweden, who posted a study that Mr. Joaquim says suggests no evidence of a connection between acetaminophen use and autism. That's what Mr. Joaquim 242 said about that study. Hey, thanks, Mickey Damon Keypacken, for being a member. Thank you, Ken Douge. Thank you, Ken, for your support. And the rural autist. The rural autist says people like us are bullied early even if we have an above average IQ. Thank you, West Coast Hayes, by the way. I want to shout out our moderators too. We have moderating right now Ruth Krafasi. Thank you, Ruth, for moderating. I really appreciate it over there on YouTube. Idaho star Matthew Kohai 3, McBritches, and Papa Bear on Twitch. Thank you. On Facebook, Paul Anderson, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley. Thanks also Chuck Mosca, Sharon Klassen Goslin, Robert Rial II for subscribing. And also we had another subscriber. I want to thank Helen Anderson. Thank you, Helen. Thanks, Amy Cluck, for the stars. And Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. Thank you for moderating. 23 minutes or so until this announcement. I just want to show you again what President Trump said yesterday about this. Yesterday, he teased this big announcement. So I'm going to show you what President Trump said yesterday about this. Here it is. It's from yesterday. Here is what President Trump said yesterday about the announcement coming up today.
And you know what MAHA is? That's right, Make America Healthy Again. And tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcement, really medically, I think, in the history of our country. We're going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking in the Oval Office in the White House about autism, how it happens, so we won't let it happen anymore, and how to get at least somewhat better when you have it, so that parents can help their child, their beautiful child. That's a big one. I've been bugging everybody over there, get the answer to that. You know, 20 years ago, 1 in 10,000 were born with autism. 20 years ago. The most recent survey says 1 in 12. How bad is that? That's for young boys, baby boys, but also girls, a little bit better. It's about 1 in 20. But we can't, because obviously there was something really wrong, and we think we know what that is. It's going to be, I think it's going to be one of the most important news conferences I'll ever have, and I look so forward to it.
That's what he said yesterday. He said, we think we know what it is. That's what he said. That's what he said. By the way, I'm seeing this. A bunch of our viewers have mentioned this in the chat. Disney has come out with a statement. Jimmy Kimmel show coming back on Tuesday. The Jimmy Kimmel show is coming back on Tuesday. According to Disney. So I am letting you know that Jimmy Kimmel Live will return on Tuesday. Disney said last Wednesday we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. Will all the affiliates still show it? Are the Nexstar affiliates going to show it? Are the Sinclair affiliates going to show it? I don't know. But the show will start airing on ABC on Tuesday, tomorrow. So, just letting you know that. Thanks for mentioning it in the chat. Do we have yet? No video from the White House yet. As soon as I get video from the White House, I will put it on the screen. We are waiting for this, what President Trump calls a major, President Trump says is going to be a major autism announcement coming up in about 18 minutes. 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 18 Okay, let's get back to the story here. And I am hoping soon to have some video from the White House. I want to take some more comments from you guys on this. So again, the two parts of the announcement today, from what has been reported, it could turn out the announcement is something different, but it is being widely reported that the two parts of the announcement today are going to be, one, the Trump administration is going to tie Tylenol to a risk of autism. Sounds like they're going to tie Tylenol being used by pregnant women. Washington Post says the administration plans to warn pregnant women against using Tylenol early on unless they have a fever. Also, the administration plans to tout a lesser-known drug called leucovorin as a potential autism treatment. Those are the two parts of the announcement I have seen widely reported. We will have to see how the scientific community reacts to whatever the announcement is. I wonder if Kenvue will release a statement today about this after the announcement. Kenvue, I think, isn't Kenvue? Kenvue is the company that makes Tylenol. Their stock today is down. It's down almost 7% today, Kenvue stock. And it is down back on September 4th, it's down over 17% since September 4th. So in September, it is down over 17%. I didn't do the actual math, but it's probably more than that now. But it is now down about 7% for the day. Just to go over this real quick again, from CDC webpage, signs and symptoms. Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability caused by differences in the brain. People with autism spectrum disorder often have problems with social communication and interaction and restricted or repetitive behaviors or interests. People with ASD may also have different ways of learning, moving, or paying attention. It is important to note that some people without autism spectrum disorder might also have some of these symptoms, but for people with ASD, these characteristics can make life very challenging. Ooh. As soon as I get video from the White House, which should be pretty soon, I am going to put it on the screen for you. I promise you. This might start late, too. It's supposed to start at 4, but sometimes these announcements start late. All right, I want to take some more comments from you guys. What do you think about this? DE thinks people should buy the dip on Kenvue stock. Biscuit says acetaminophen, not just brand Tylenol. Well, it's interesting. I mean, Tylenol is not the only form that you can buy of acetaminophen, but the reports say that Trump's announcement will specifically mention Tylenol. Reuters says that many doctors dispute that there is a link between. Many doctors and researchers dispute that there is a link between acetaminophen and autism. I want to point out that Reuters says decades of studies have yet to establish a definitive cause, but many scientists believe genetics, potentially in combination with environmental factors, play a role. Kenvue has said in a statement, Kenvue was spun out from Johnson & Johnson in 2023. You can also buy generic versions of acetaminophen. Tylenol is made by Kenvue. Kenvue said in a statement, "We believe that independent sound science clearly shows that taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise and are deeply concerned with the health risk this poses for expecting mothers." I want to show you something else here. The Autism Science Foundation, it's a nonprofit organization whose stated goals are to fund evidence-based autism research and support families with autistic members. That's what Wikipedia says. So there's a quote in here in this Reuters article about from Autism Science Foundation President Allison Singer. Many experts, including the CDC, have largely attributed in recent decades there has been an autism rate increase in the United States. Many experts, including the CDC, have largely attributed the autism rate increase to widespread screening and the inclusion of a wider range of behaviors to define the condition, leading to the diagnosis of individuals with milder or more subtle signs of autism. The president of the Autism Science Foundation, Allison Singer, in April said that RFK also falsely asserted that environmental factors are the primary cause of autism. Singer said, the president of the Autism Science Foundation said, an overwhelming amount of evidence points to a genetic cause, and many scientists are exploring how environmental factors may influence a person's genetic predisposition to autism. Jed High says it just seems like this might give false hope. Tycrom says, I took 2 Tylenol this morning and now I'm scared. Now, I think Tycrom may be being sarcastic. I'm not sure. But I will say this. If they come out with this announcement claiming a link between Tylenol to autism, suppose the announcement is they claim there's a link. Suppose they claim that there's a link between Tylenol use by pregnant women and autism in the children that those pregnant women have. If they make that announcement, there are some people who might hear that and just hear that as, oh, I shouldn't take Tylenol ever. So I don't know how this announcement might affect the general usage rate of Tylenol among the general public. Forget pregnant women. I have no idea. There may be some people who read a headline and just think, and don't read the details, and misinterpret it and stop using Tylenol based on the headline, even if the announcement isn't supposed to apply to them. I have no idea. Ondo thinks their stock will go into free fall. Well, we'll have to see the specifics. Flight Radar 24 said that there were drone reports at Copenhagen Airport that were holding or diverting, waiting or diverting due to a drone situation. Yeah, again, so this kind of thing. This doesn't mean that Russia is flying attack drones in Copenhagen. I've heard of other cases before where drone activity near an airport impacted the activity at the airport. So just to be clear, Flight Radar 24 said 35 minutes ago, they said all takeoffs and landings at Copenhagen Airport have been suspended due to drone reports. But again, I just want to be clear. That doesn't mean that Russia is attacking the airport with drones. It could be that somebody is flying a drone. If there is a drone, it could be that some amateur is flying a drone near the airport where they're not supposed to be flying it. So I don't have the details on that right now. I'll keep an eye on it. Thank you, Kiwi, for mentioning, by the way. I appreciate it. Thanks for your support, Kiwi. All right, hold on a moment. Hold on a moment here. One moment. One moment. No video yet from the White House. Waiting to get video from the White House. I don't think this announcement's going to start on time. I don't think. I might be wrong, though. I might be wrong. Maybe they'll get it up quick. But usually you get some video a little early. But I have my eyes on it. All right, so we're going to have live coverage of what President Trump says is going to be a very important announcement about autism, about how it happens, and how to get at least somewhat better. That's what he said yesterday. And that is coming up here. We're going to bring you live coverage. We've been talking about it. Thank you, by the way, to Martin Gingrich. Martin, Kenvue, I guess, split off from Johnson & Johnson several years ago, and Kenvue manufactures Tylenol. Thank you, Martin. Thank you also, Sebastian Lee. Thank you also, Katie Williams, for being a member. Thanks again to Kiwi. Thanks, Tommy B, for your support. All right, we're waiting for this to happen. Hang on a moment. Have not seen any video from the White House yet. Ooh, I got to pull something else up here. Maybe they'll be part of the announcement we haven't heard about yet. We just don't know. AP says the White House plans an announcement on autism. The event will be closely watched by scientists and advocates. Earlier this year, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. promised to determine the cause of autism by September. That announcement alarmed experts because Kennedy has promoted discredited theories that routine childhood shots cause the developmental disability. Also, one other article said that people were worried about that claim because they thought that the research would take longer than that. Speaking at a memorial for Charlie Kirk yesterday, Trump said, "I think we found an answer to autism." Still all right, so I'm going to change the headline to soon because it doesn't look like it's starting at 4. Yeah, I'm going to do this. It was supposed to start at 4 p.m. ET. I don't think it's going to start at 4 p.m. ET. I'm going to get the clock out of there too because I am not seeing signs that it's going to start at 4 p.m. ET. So let me just fix the thing with the clock up there. Don't want to have false advertising. Will they be taking questions? That's a good question. I don't know. To repeat, the two parts of the announcement that I have seen reported are, one, that the Trump administration will tie Tylenol to autism risk, and as the Washington Post says, they plan to warn pregnant women against using Tylenol early on unless they have a fever. Also, as you can see here from the Washington Post, officials plan to tout a lesser-known drug called leucovorin as a potential autism treatment. It is now 4 p.m. when the announcement was going to happen. Hold on, I got a White House shot. Breaking news. We have a live feed. Breaking news. We have a live feed right now. Hold on a second here. Here it is. We're live at the White House. I got to get my headphones on. Live at the White House right now. Oh my gosh. Look at this. We're live. Oh my gosh, we are live at the White House via Reuters. Thank you, Reuters, for the live shot. I got to get my headphones on so I can hear it. There it is. The room is ready. There are blank things on the easels. Maybe they're not blank on the back. Oh my gosh, we are live from the White House. We got audio. This is something. So we reported earlier, we told you that Disney announced that the Jimmy Kimmel live show will be back on the air tomorrow. I told you that I didn't know if Nexstar and Sinclair, who have dozens of ABC channels, if they would agree to broadcast it on their ABC affiliates. Nexstar and Sinclair, before ABC, owned by Disney, announced that they were pulling Jimmy Kimmel last week, Nexstar and Sinclair said, we're not showing it on our channels. So Andrew Colvett, who is the spokesman for Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization that he co-founded, Andrew Colvett said, thanks to Brian Stelter for posting this, Andrew Colvett of Turning Point USA said, Disney and ABC caving and allowing Kimmel back on the air is not surprising, but it's their mistake to make. Nexstar and Sinclair do not have to make the same choice, he said. So I don't know if Nexstar and Sinclair are going to show the Jimmy Kimmel Show on their dozens of ABC stations. Hey, thanks to Fiona CD for your support. I really appreciate that. Thanks, King Turd, our member. Thanks, Eric Bush. Eric Bush thinks if they specifically announce it as Tylenol and not acetaminophen in general, the brand should sue for defamation. He says other manufacturers also make acetaminophen. Thank you, Bella Rose. I'll have to look at those posts later. Thank you, Bella Rose. I appreciate that. Thanks for your support. Tommy B. Thank you. Shout out to our Beam Me Up, thank you. Shout out to our moderators who are here as we wait for this to start. Ruth Krafasi. Thank you, Ruth. 13 Alamo, Bastion Girl, Good Luck Duck, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire. Matthew Kohai 3, McBritches and Papa Bear on Twitch. K. Lowry Body, Paul Anderson over on Facebook. Thanks to Michael Clayton, our member our subscriber on Facebook. Thanks, Michael. And our subscribers who I thanked earlier are over there. Thanks, Kissy Kissy, our new member on YouTube. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha moderate for us on X. Thank you. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the Justice Department has come out with a press release on the ABC 10 shooting, where they have filed federal charges against the suspect in the ABC 10 shooting. Maybe we can talk about that after. They say he fired the first shot into the air in the direction of the station, then drove to the front of the station and fired 3 shots directly into the building's lobby. Oh, hang on a moment here. Hang on a moment here. The Department of Justice says ABC 10 shooter had a weekly planner attached to his refrigerator, and under Friday there was a handwritten note that read, that stated, "Do the next scary thing." And in his car, he had another handwritten note that read, "For hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags, do not support Patel, Bongino, and AG Pam Bondi. They're next." Wow. Signed CK from above. All right, hold on a second. So this just came out. Again, they say it said, "For hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags, do not support Patel, Bongino, and AG Pam Bondi. They're next, CK from above." They found it out in his car. All right, sorry, that just came out, so I wanted to mention it. All right, so let me just mention that one more time because it just came out. The suspect in the shooting of ABC 10, where that was on Friday, they say a man shot 3 shots into a window, into the building's lobby of ABC 10 in Sacramento. They said at his house there was a weekly planner on the fridge, and under Friday it said, "Do the next scary thing." And also in his car there was a note, a handwritten note that said, "For hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags, do not support Patel, Bongino, and AG Pam Bondi. They're next, CK from above." All right, so I just wanted to mention that. Sorry, I know it's off topic, but it was a little breaking news. That's the ABC 10 shooting, where a man shot several shots into the ABC 10 ABC affiliate in Sacramento on Friday. Okay, let's get back to this. Any moment now, as you can see, there's going to be an announcement from President Trump and RFK Jr., Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Dr. Oz, said President Trump yesterday, and who knows who else will be there. Dr. Oz is the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And they are going to have what President Trump says is an important autism announcement. President Trump said yesterday they're going to talk about how it happens and how to get at least somewhat better. It is being widely reported that the announcement will have two aspects. As the Washington Post describes it, the announcement will tie Tylenol to autism risk and warn pregnant women against using Tylenol early on again unless they have a fever, according to the Washington Post. The Post also says, in addition, officials plan to tout a lesser-known drug called leucovorin as a potential autism treatment. I do not know how the scientific community will react to these announcements. It is unclear if there will be other announcements. But multiple outlets, not just the Washington Post, are saying that those two things will be announced. By the way, thanks to Bonnie Goodwin for your support. Thanks also Hippie Easter for your support. Oh, the White House is also live. Hold on, let me just... Now, when this starts, I may need to switch the camera. My point, sometimes I have a couple different feeds, and I want to get you the best one. So, right when they come out, bear with me, because I might switch from one to the other if that's going to get you a better feed, okay? And you might, for a few seconds, hear double audio if I'm switching the two. Yeah, see, there's the White House feed too. We will begin shortly. President Trump makes an announcement on medical and scientific findings for America's children, it says. Reuters is also reporting that President Trump is expected to link autism with Tylenol, a claim highly disputed, they say. I actually have 3 shots. Is that the same shot here? No, I think that's the same shot. Thank you for being with us. The White House pool said that they had been called to gather for the autism announcement. So again, any moment now, this is coming up live. We will take your comments. We will take your comments on the air after this, of course. We'll talk about it after. By the way, the Denmark newspaper Politiken said that 2 or 3 drones flying around the airport in Copenhagen resulted in planes not being able to land or take off. They said it was 2 or 3 drones. I don't know anything more about those. The Politiken said the police are investigating to identify the drones. I guess get more information about them. I don't have information about them. So I want to check some other things people have sent me. Bastion Girl thinks that the sharpest increase in autism followed the changing of the DSM criteria, which switched other or disorders to autism label. That's what Bastion Girl said. Hang on one moment here. Yeah, our viewer, Donna Smith, sent me this study by the Harvard School of Public Health that came out in August that has been much discussed. The headline of the study was using acetaminophen during pregnancy may increase children's autism and ADHD risk. The study says that the researchers noted that while steps should be taken to limit acetaminophen use, the drug is important for treating maternal fever and pain, which can also harm children. And the researchers in this study recommended judicious acetaminophen use, lowest effective dose, shortest duration under medical guidance, tailored to individual risk-benefit assessments rather than a broad limitation. One of the authors of that study, the Harvard School of Public Health study. Do I have this right? Hold on, I don't want to interrupt. One of the authors of that report told the New York Times, "We cannot answer the question about causation. That is very important to clarify." Dr. Nathaniel D. Nicola, who advises the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists on environmental issues, told the New York Times there's no credible scientific link that Tylenol causes autism. So again, I'm not a scientist. I am interested in seeing what they announce and how scientists respond to that. We'll have to see. The Washington Post had a story today about how there is some initial evidence that suggests that this drug, what's it called again? Leucovorin, which reportedly will be talked about today as a possible treatment of some sort. The Washington Post had an article today saying there's some initial evidence that suggests leucovorin may help some with autism with their symptoms. But they also said that in the article, as I showed you, that research is in an early stage of development. Dave F. says, what is the holdup? It sounds like this is going to happen soon. For whatever it's worth, the White House just posted their own stream on X. So, sounds like it's going to happen soon, but I cannot. I mean, we have the footage, and the White House stream is live, but it's not actually showing anything at the moment. So, any moment now, I do expect people to walk in. Weasel Acres, maybe they did the mic check before. We didn't see it. Hey, thank you, Chad Scully. Chad, our viewer Chad says, sometimes autism is a good thing. Chad says, look at Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk, from what I understand, has said that he has Asperger's syndrome, a condition now that's recognized under the broader term autism spectrum disorder. That's what I understand is the case. There are several articles that say that. Anyways, that's what our viewer Chad Scully said. I did mention that part of the Washington Post article today about leucovorin, and that article said that efforts to treat core symptoms of autism are sometimes seen as attempts to fix what many consider a natural and valuable variation of the human mind. So there are some debates and controversy over how autism is seen. Faye Tuck's News pointed out that the police in Copenhagen said that the Copenhagen airport is closed for takeoffs and landings as 2 or 3 larger drones have been observed flying in the area. I will give you updates on that when I hear it. Hey, thanks so much to Mr. Joachim242. I really appreciate it. Who thinks leucovorin is not a wonder drug. That's what Mr. Joachim thinks. Mr. Joachim thinks it's not a game changer. It is currently 4:28. The announcement was originally scheduled for 4. As you are looking at the White House right now, live. Tariffed says, so Trump is going to introduce the next wonder drug stock. We'll see what he has to say. Thank you, Marilyn Gardner, for your support as well. I appreciate that. Again, when it starts, I may switch from one feed to another, so bear with me for a second if I need to switch. You might hear double audio for a couple seconds, but I'll get it switched quickly if I need to switch the shot to get you the best shot. Thank you also, SA, for your support. Reuters says that decades of research has not yielded firm answers on what contributes to autism, but many scientists believe genetics, potentially in combination with environmental influences, play a role. Our viewer Try Will Online says it's genetics. Brian Baker 1976 says if he did cure cancer, you guys wouldn't give Trump credit. What are they going to say? Will there be other parts of the announcement that nobody's reported on yet? I just don't know. I'm waiting just like you to see. Rick Mack thinks Elon Musk will be there. Now, I haven't heard he'll be there. There's no reporting on that. You never know, though. Thank you, the rural artist. Thank you. Oh, hold on. I'm hearing something different. What's going on? No, I'm not. Karen Moore says, if Trump starts touting a new drug, will people start dosing up on it on their own? Scary, says Karen Moore. Hang on a moment here. Thanks also, We the Rabble. Thank you. So we're still waiting here. As you know, as you can see, it's 4:35. When will they start? The best I can say is soon. You know, I think President Trump had said yesterday it was going to be in the Oval Office. But I don't think this is the Oval Office. But I believe yesterday he said it was going to be in the Oval Office. Not that it's a huge deal, but one of our viewers just said, this isn't the Oval Office. I don't think it is. Unless I'm wrong. This room is the Roosevelt room, as one of our viewers just mentioned. It is the Roosevelt room. Because on Wikipedia, if you go there, you can see the picture on the wall in the Roosevelt room. A number of our viewers mentioned it's the Roosevelt room. Hey, thanks to Hikmet Kolat from Turkey. Thank you so much, Hikmet. That's very kind of you. Also, Pluck P. Thank you, Pluck P, for your support. I appreciate that. Pluck P. I bet Kenview, I bet at the Kenview office, they make Tylenol. They're sitting there anxiously waiting this announcement and see what is said, to see what is said. Thank you, Ray, for your support as well from the UK. And also Pluck P. Thank you again, Pluck P, for your support. To repeat, multiple outlets are saying that President Trump will link autism with Tylenol. Also, multiple reports are saying that President Trump will talk about a drug called leucovorin as a potential treatment in this announcement. Yes, as Mark Allen said, according to the Washington Post, the officials today plan to warn pregnant women against using Tylenol early on unless they have a fever. Thank you, Mark, for mentioning that. Reuters also says that the announcement will link the use of popular over-the-counter pain medication Tylenol to the development of autism during pregnancy. Thank you, Katie, for your support. Thank you, Chug, for your support. Sorry for the delay. I cannot control when they're going to come out and start. I think they're about to start. Maybe, but I don't know. I'm not going to say that, because if I say that it's not going to start, everybody will yell at me. But this shot is live, the one we're watching. The shot we're watching is live. Sounds like maybe people are behind the doors. Are people behind the doors? Are people behind the doors right now, ready to come in? Maybe people are behind the doors. Two-minute warning. 2-minute warning. They just gave a 2-minute warning. I just heard it. Oh my gosh, 2-minute warning. Wow. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Get ready. We will be taking your comments on the air after this announcement. Let's see what the White House says about autism. 2-minute warning. It's probably a minute now. President Trump said yesterday this is a very important announcement. All right, I think it's been 2 minutes. I think it's been 2 minutes since the 2-minute warning. Mary Beth Kroll thinks they are locked out. Thank you to Sean Morris. I appreciate that, Sean Morris. Thank you. Thanks to all of our moderators who are here, bringing you live coverage. We're going to be, well, I think it's now officially more than 2 minutes since the 2-minute warning. There was one time we covered an event, I want to say this year, where they gave a 2-minute warning, and then it was like a half hour later. Usually the 2-minute warning is a real warning, and it's not. But that one time I remember we covered it, and they just had to give a second 2-minute warning because the first one was a false one. Apex Skunk says it's a long 2 minutes. Sorry, guys. They said 2-minute warning. I didn't say it. They said it. Thank you to Biscuits. I appreciate it, Biscuits. Thank you. And Steve Otten, thank you. He says someone threw the ball out of bounds and stopped the clock. Yeah, so, well, it's been more than 2 minutes since the 2-minute warning. Here we go. The door's opening. Let's go. Let's watch what happens. I can see Trump through the door. Wait, the door opened. I could see Trump. He was walking. We saw Trump walking there. What's happening? Now he's coming. All right, here we go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. So I've been waiting for this meeting for 20 years, actually. And it's not that everything's 100% understood or known, but I think we've made a lot of strides. Wish it was done a long time ago. Today we're delighted to be joined by America's medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible crisis. I'll thank the man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office, is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York. I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from. And he and I don't know, the word got out, and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think. And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. J. Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and Acting Assistant Secretary of HHS, Dr. Dorothy Fink. So thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, very much. The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it, 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California, where they have for some reason, a more severe problem. But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys. 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them, this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000, and then you go to 12, there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you have to, if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses, and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff, you'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and all the 3 should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it 4 for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country. The FDA will be updating the label of an existing drug to reflect potential benefits in reducing some autism symptoms. This gives hope to the many parents with autistic children that it may be possible to improve their lives. That's one of the things that I'm very, very happy about. I mean, this was mostly going to be on how not to have the child affected, but we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better, and in some cases maybe substantially better. Not going to be easy, but be a lot easier if it didn't happen in the first place, as these great parents fully understand, right? They fully understand. I feel so terribly for... I have so many friends with autistic children. It's a tough situation. Finally, to help reach the ultimate goal of ending the autism fever, the NIH will be announcing 13 major grant awards from the Autism Data Science Initiatives. And to be honest with you, to me, that's the least important. It's not even a money thing at this point. There's so much money, but they have to do, and they have to move quickly. When the alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. But with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. And if you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one because there's no alternative to that. Sadly, first question, what can you take instead? It's actually, there's not an alternative to that. And as you know, other of the medicines are absolutely proven bad. I mean, they've been proven bad with the aspirins and the Advils and others, right? And they've been proven bad. So I'd like to ask Bobby to get up to the podium and say a few words, and then Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. McCary, Dr. Oz, Dr. Fink, followed by 2 incredible mothers that have experienced firsthand what this country is going through, what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol, and they have virtually no autism, okay? Tell me about that one. And there are other parts of the world where they don't have Tylenol, where they don't have autism. That tells you a lot. And I want to say it right now. And, you know, the way I look at it, don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it. So I'd like to ask Bobby to come up and say a few words. I hope I didn't ruin his day, but that's the way I feel. I've been very strong on the subject for a long time. You know, life is common sense, too. And there's a lot of common sense in this, and I wish things like this were brought up. And this group has worked so hard on it, but I'd like to be a little bit more, a little speedier in the process of a recommendation, because there's no harm in going quicker. There's absolutely no harm. At worst, there's no harm. Thank you very much. Bobby, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. To meet the President's challenge, I ordered HHS to launch an unprecedented all-agency effort to identify all causes of autism, including toxic and pharmaceutical exposures. At President Trump's urging, NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS are turning over every stone to identify the etiology of the autism epidemic and how patients and parents can prevent and reverse this alarming trend. We have broken down the traditional silos that have long separated these agencies, and we have fast-tracked research and guidance. Historically, NIH has focused almost solely on politically safe and entirely fruitless research about the genetic drivers of autism. And that would be like studying the genetic drivers of lung cancer without looking at cigarettes. And that's what NIH has been doing for 20 years. As a result, we don't have an answer to this critical question, despite the cataclysmic impact of the epidemic on our nation's children. We are now replacing the institutional culture of politicized science and corruption with evidence-based medicine. NIH research teams are currently testing multiple hypotheses with no area off limits. We promise transparency as we uncover the potential causes and treatments, and we will notify the public regularly of our progress. Today, we are announcing two important findings from our autism work that are vital for parents to know as they make these decisions. First, HHS will act on acetaminophen. The FDA is responding to clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD and autism. Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. We have also evaluated the contrary studies that show no association. Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. FDA also recognized that acetaminophen is often the only tool for fevers and pain in pregnancy, as other alternatives have well-documented adverse effects. HHS wants, therefore, to encourage clinicians to exercise their best judgment in the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary duration and only when treatment is required. Furthermore, thanks to the politicization of science, the safety of acetaminophen against the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in young children has never been validated. Prudent medicine, therefore, suggests caution in acetaminophen use by young children, especially since strong evidence also has associated it with liver toxicity. Some studies have also found the use of acetaminophen in children can potentially prolong viral illnesses. FDA will drive new research to safeguard mothers, children, and families. In addition to a possible acetaminophen connection to autism for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers, our research has revealed that folate deficiency in a child's brain can lead to autism. We have also identified an exciting therapy that may benefit large numbers of children who suffer from autism. Peer-reviewed literature has documented that up to 60% of folate-deficient children with ASD can have improved verbal communications if given leucovorin. I have instructed NIH, FDA, and CMS to help doctors treat children appropriately. Jay will help tell that story, which started with sound science, the kind that restores faith in government. This announcement also represents a historic collaboration between NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS. We expect this to be the first of many announcements over the coming years that deliver actionable information to parents on underlying cause of autism and the potential paths for prevention and reversal. Finally, autism is a complex disorder with multifactorial etiology. We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the President mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community that we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago. Whatever the answer is, we will tell you what we find. We are researching this issue to all 3 agencies. Jay will discuss one of our research initiatives at NIH. This model of unleashing unbiased, depoliticized, gold standard scientific research and academic freedom to deliver actionable information to prevent and reverse disease will be a model for the framework to deliver similar results for many other chronic conditions that plague Americans. Jay?
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy, and thank you, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
I'm proud to announce today that the NIH has launched the Autism Data Science Initiative to turbocharge autism research, devoting an additional $50 million to the cause of studying autism. Nearly 250 research teams from across the country applied, sent in their applications, and were peer-reviewed by the NIH review panels. The NIH peer reviewers chose the 13 best projects focused on root causes and therapies, with replication and validation studies to guarantee gold standard science. The studies feature a new kind of science called exposomics, where scientists consider environmental and medical factors, nutrition, events during pregnancy, in combination with biology and genetics to answer vital questions about autism. Science like this, conducted in partnership with families and physicians, is the best way to arrest and reverse the autism epidemic. Autism spectrum disorder encompasses a very wide range of symptoms, ranging from mild difficulties with social interactions to profoundly autistic children who experience severe disabilities in speech and behavior. Given this wide range of symptoms across the spectrum, it seems certain that there will be a wide range of biological contributors to explaining the cause. The great thing about the new NIH initiative on autism is that scientists will use rigorous advanced methods in causal inference, machine learning, organoids, and other fresh approaches to the problem. The sharp rise in the prevalence of autism deserves an urgent response by the scientific community. As Bobby said, the NIH has invested a lot of money to study autism over the years, but the research has not produced the answers that families and parents of autistic children deserve, and autistic children themselves deserve. For too long, it's been taboo to ask some questions for fear the scientific work might reveal a politically incorrect answer. Because of this restricted focus in scientific investigations, the answers for families have been similarly restricted, often pointing families to behavioral therapies that don't work for every kid or suggest non-modifiable genetic factors as the cause. But genetics alone can't explain such a sharp rise in autism prevalence over just a few decades, as the president said. In coming months and years, as NIH scientists learn more that can help autistic children and their families, we won't delay. Like scientists often like to do. I can say as a scientist myself, it's really tempting to delay, but but in face of a problem like this, you have to move fast. But we will not delay before telling American people about what we find, and we will win the public trust with transparency and rigor. Already, our broadened focus on autism research has pointed to 2 items that will help families prevent and treat some cases of autism. I'll leave the good news on these 2 items to my close friends and colleagues, Dr. McCary and Dr. Oz. We've been working together closely on this problem for the past 6 months, and our cooperation represents an unprecedented collaboration with Secretary Kennedy's Department of Health and Human Services and with President Trump. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Marty McCary, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, who will tell you about these announcements of practical help for families with autism.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Mr. President, this is the start of a historic shift in medical culture. This administration is working together to ask big questions about why our nation's children are getting sick so fast. Too often, medicine is doing small little studies, giving us answers we already knew. But we've got to make a difference. You've given us a charge to identify root causes, and we are not going to stop so that we can end the suffering we are watching. And if you've seen a kid with autism, with severe autism, it's hard to watch. Kids get frustrated, they get angry, they can be crying because they want to speak and they can't speak. It's hard to watch, and it may be entirely preventable. For an epidemiologist, that child is an expanding statistic. But for a child, it can be brutal to have autism. Today, the FDA is taking action to update the label on acetaminophen and sending a letter to all U.S. doctors letting them know about the risks in pregnancy. We now have data we cannot ignore. There's a very large study, the Boston Birth Cohort, with researchers that have, from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, and Boston University, found, quote-unquote, consistent associations between acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism. And the Nurses' Health Study with researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Harvard looking at 9,000 kids found that acetaminophen use in pregnancy was associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. And 4 weeks ago, a Mount Sinai Harvard study reviewed all the existing literature and found the overwhelming body of evidence points to an association. Sure, you'll be able to find a study to the contrary. That's how science works. But to quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. We cannot wait any longer. And honestly, there's been this perfunctory, reactionary, mindless practice in medicine. I learned it in medical school and residency. Just treat all fevers, low-grade fevers, treat them with acetaminophen. Why? What are we doing? A study out of Hopkins actually showed that treating a fever can prolong the duration of illness in a young kid. Maybe that's because a fever is a body's natural way of ridding an infection. When my wife was pregnant and delivered our son a few months ago, they pushed her to take acetaminophen for a low-grade fever. She said no, and then they looked to me and I said, absolutely no. I'm also here to announce good news. Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice to change the label on an exciting treatment called prescription leucovorin so that it can be available to children with autism. You know, autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin to get into the brain cells. It's a fairly established, mature pathway. Again, we have a duty to let doctors and the public know we are going to change the label to make it available. Hundreds of thousands of kids, in my opinion, will benefit. One study found that with kids with autism and chronic folate deficiency, 2/3 of kids with autism symptoms had improvement, and some marked improvement. Mr. President, you told us to do what's medically right, to go bold, and not worry about the corporations and the lobbyists. So that's what we're here doing today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Marty. I think you all appreciate the passion in the President's voice. We've been hearing that since the inauguration. In fact, even before the inauguration, the President was upset about what he spoke to today. And so together with Secretary Kennedy, who's made it his life's work to address some of these challenges with autism, they challenged us. In fact, they were harsher than that. They wanted no silos to break down what the NIH would do, what the FDA would do, what CMS would do. They insisted that the physician leaders bust through the clutter because their agencies had the power. If we didn't do what every other prior administration had done, which is to let people function within their siloed environments. Because of that, in historic fashion and a very accelerated manner, we have a response today to the autism crisis. It is the first of several chapters, but this is breaking news. You've heard some of it. The response to the autism crisis is going to continue to come to you under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, and the President wouldn't have it any other way, as you've heard. The FDA, based on NIH research, is approving prescription leucovorin for treatment of autistic children. Now, if you're following the script, there should be two questions that you have. Two questions that should come to your mind. The first is, how will patients and parents get access to the treatment? I'll tell you how. Over half of American children are covered by Medicaid and CHIP, government health insurance. Over half. And therefore, because they're covered in Medicaid and CHIP, upon this label change by Marty, state Medicaid programs in partnership with CMS will cover prescription leucovorin around the country. It's yours, but you have to go to a doctor to get a prescription because they know your child, they know you, and they know the medication. States will also have tools to monitor its use and ensure appropriate utilization. That's important for a bunch of reasons because we want the right kids getting the right prescription medications. We believe private insurance companies will rapidly follow our lead if they have not already done so. And again, to make sure that this is safe and effective treatment, you need a physician to prescribe the medication because it's on prescription. Second big question. How are we going to collect clinical data to answer the big questions that the President's asking and the Secretary insists that we offer? CMS is also issuing guidance to convene states and existing research networks to support NIH and FDA in their research efforts of prescription leucovorin, while also maintaining the privacy of all patients, all health information of our beneficiaries. Collecting real-world data, which is what many of you have been asking us to do in the community, is fast, it is life-saving, and we'll get answers based on what happens over the next few months with this approach. The aggressive approach, and it is aggressive, demanded by the President and by the Secretary, have already identified risk factors and opened the door for the first FDA-recognized treatment pathway for autism. It is the first of its kind, and it wouldn't have happened without the leadership of the President and the Secretary. The fivefold increased prevalence of autism over the past 25 years demands a rapid response. The average clinician, researcher, we spoke to many, thought it would take 5 years to get this data. Parents are unwilling to wait 5 years. The President is unwilling to wait 5 years for these results. So the President and the Secretary are acting today with this tri-agency move. The administration's bold actions investing in groundbreaking research follow the science, they restore trust, which has been lacking, and they will change the trajectory for millions of American families. Mr. President, God bless you for being brave. So let me introduce Dr. Fink, who's acting administrator, and after Dr. Fink, we've got some wonderful women, Jackie and Amanda. I know it's going to be tough, but if you can make some comments about this historic day, God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to speak with all of you today. As a pediatrician and mom, I'm here today to talk about what this announcement means for the millions of moms and dads who are faced with the choice of whether to take acetaminophen during pregnancy. It's hard to hear information that challenges the status quo. We are sharing this information not to confuse, but to empower parents to make the best choices when taking medications during pregnancy. We are all concerned about the rising rates of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism. President Trump and Secretary Kennedy are dedicated to radical transparency so that patients have the best, most up-to-date information. We are also sharing this information with our nation's doctors, and we encourage you, as always, to consult with your doctor to make the best decision for you. All too often, it's easy to think that medicines we buy without a prescription pose little to no risk for the mom or the baby. As you heard today, pregnant women who need high fever or pain reduction during pregnancy should take the lowest effective dose of acetaminophen for the shortest possible duration. Most women will not meet these indications during their pregnancies. I am encouraged by these developments today because it is another example of our commitment to the American people to leave no stone unturned in improving the health of our nation's children. Next, I'm going to turn it over to some incredible mothers who are going to share more about their stories, and we're so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and team, for all your work. This is an historic day, and I'm thankful to be here. I have a son who's 5 who is profoundly autistic. And you've probably heard, if you've met one autistic child, you've met one autistic child. It's a spectrum, which I don't think the spectrum is helpful, but that's another conversation. He is an amazing little boy, a blessing from God. He's marvelous. He can count to 1,000. He knows all of his letters and the sounds they make and a word for each one. But he also has a lot of obstacles. He is nonverbal. He can say those numbers and letters, but there's no communication. Unless you've lived with profound autism, you have no idea. You have no idea. He, like you said, he will get frustrated because he can't speak. It's not even that he can't speak. Sometimes he just doesn't understand what I'm saying. He understands the word no, but he doesn't understand the why behind the no. And that's a huge part of discipline. That's the discipline. So it's very hard to discipline a child with autism so you have these behaviors. And it's a very hopeless feeling. It's very isolating being a parent with a profound autistic child. Even just taking them over to your friend's house is something we just don't do because, again, they're going to be met with no, and no understanding of why, and then there's a meltdown. And then you're in a situation where you're just helpless and you're just trying to protect your kid. So it's just better not to do it. You learn your limits, and it's been really hard. This is amazing that we're here today. And no one has been able to point to anything to say this is what caused it, and you can't point to that and say it didn't cause it. I have no idea. I am completely open, not blaming anything, but I'm open to the discussion and the fact that there's work being done to find answers. I'm very grateful. I was already excited to vote for Mr. Trump anyway, Mr. President. But when we got word of RFK doing his work, I was ecstatic. I could not wait for this work to be done, that somebody would try to find us some answers. I'm just very grateful. I pray for my son every day and hope that he can get the help that he needs. And just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. You take care of yourself.
Hi, my name's Jackie. I'm also extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here and share my son's story. My son is Eddie. He's 11. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum from what Amanda just explained. He's considered high functioning. He was not always high functioning. He was nonverbal till the age 4. We've had quite a hard time to get to the place where we are today. I am just so grateful to President Trump and the entire administration for finally listening to moms who have been crying out for help, for answers for years. I've met so many other moms with children on the spectrum in the 9 years since my son's diagnosis, and they all have very similar stories. And they've all just wanted somebody to listen, to not ridicule them or look at them like they were the crazy people it's hard when you don't have doctors that take the time to really listen and find out when the change happened and what change happened. And it's just, I've been praying for this day for 9 years, and I'm so thankful to God for bringing the administration into our lives. And I'm speechless. This day is a day I never thought would happen. I thought that we would never have an administration that was courageous enough to look into things that no prior administration had. So I'm just here to express my gratitude, and I am looking forward to what comes from this, and hopefully we just get more answers. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So I just want to say acetaminophen is basically Tylenol, essentially, because I noticed that term is used throughout this conference. So it's essentially Tylenol. And I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol unless it's absolutely necessary. I understand it's maybe 10% of the women that are pregnant are, would perhaps be forced to use it. And that would mean you just can't tough it out. No matter what you do, you can't tough it out. So that's up to you and your doctor. But there's a very strong recommendation, maybe stronger from me than from the group, because they're waiting for certain studies. I just want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. If you just can't, it's just fight like hell not to take it. There may be a point where you have to, and that you have to work out with yourself. So don't take Tylenol. Other things that we recommend, or certainly I do anyway, is, and it's so important to me to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby. Even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1. And certain things I think you should do. We've already taken out and are in the process of taking out mercury and aluminum now. You know what mercury is. You know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants that pumped into a body? And there were rumors about both of them for a long time. But we're having them taken out. We're having them taken out of the vaccines. Hepatitis B, again, that's sexually transmitted, and we think you should wait. I think you should wait till 12. I'm making these statements from me. I'm not making them from these doctors, because when they talk about, different results, different studies, I talk about a lot of common sense, and they have that too. They have that too, a lot. But I recommend the hepatitis B. Take it at 12. Sexually transmitted. You don't have to give it to the baby when the baby's 2 years old, and there are a lot of theories on that, but not when they're 12. Doesn't seem to be a problem at all. The MMR and the chickenpox. Chickenpox has already been broken out. It's a singular shot, but the MMR is not. And I've heard for years that there's a problem with it. But they say that there's no problem if you do each shot separately, not put together. So an MMR, go out and do it separately. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby after the baby's born. Every time the baby gets a shot, the baby gets a shot. They say, here, take a cup of Tylenol. I've heard that for years. Take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't have your baby take Tylenol. Now, Tylenol is fine for people that aren't pregnant, that aren't in the situation that we're talking about. One very specific situation. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. When you have your baby, don't give your baby Tylenol at all, unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't do it. Break up your visits to the doctors. Break them up. Do it in 5 if you can. Now, it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient. Oh, you have to go back another year later. You're going to go back each year for 4 years, 5 years, 3 years. Just break it up. Break it up. Because it's too much liquid, too many different things are going into that baby at too big a number. The size of this thing, when you look at it, it's like 80 different vaccines and beyond vaccines, and 80. Then you give that to a little kid. I mean, I can tell you that I had a woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman, worked in Trump Tower, and she had the most perfect child, beautiful, just perfect. And I remember this little blonde-haired boy running around the lobby of Trump Tower, so healthy and so vibrant. And I said, that's great. And one day I came in and she was crying, her eyes out, behind the counter. She worked at the front desk. She was crying her eyes out. I've never, as much as I've ever seen anyone distraught, she was. I said, are you okay? What happened? My boy, I've lost my boy. What does that mean, your boy? My boy, you know him, sir. You've seen him grow up. He was so beautiful. And I took him for a vaccine, sir. And he developed this unbelievable, I think she said 107, 108. You know, it goes well beyond when this happens. It goes up to 106, 107, 108. You know, we hear 105 and you're in trouble, but it just goes up to a level that you never hear about, but it goes up very high. And it's fried. They get fried. She said, I took him, he developed an unbelievable temperature. And I've lost him, sir. He's gone. And then I saw the boy. It was so tragic to see. That was the following day. After the vaccine. And I've seen it 2 other times, and I think 3 other times, but 2 other times, where they go to the doctor and they get the vaccine, they get the shot. The kid is, badly hurt. Let's be nice, badly hurt. And just do it. Break it up into 5, break it up into 4, break it up into 3 if you have to, but go to the doctor 4 times instead of once, or 5 times instead of once. And for some reason, they insist that you put it all into the body, and maybe that's the drug companies that make more money that way. Maybe it's the doctors because they don't want to be, doing this so much. Maybe it's the doctors. They get maybe more money. Who the hell knows what it is? Don't do it. Get them broken into 4 or 5 visits. Do it 4 or 5. That means you have 20%, 25% what you're putting into the baby's body. It can only help. And the other things I told you about, just the word tough it out. It's easy for me to say tough it out, but sometimes in life with a lot of other things you have to tough it out also. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby. When the baby's born, they throw it at you. Here, give them a couple of Tylenol. They give them a shot. They give them a vaccine. And every time they give them a vaccine, they're throwing Tylenol. And some of these babies, they're long born, and all of a sudden they're gone. And it doesn't hurt not to do it. It doesn't hurt. There's no downside. There's no downside at all. And break up MMR. Break it up. It's practically a known fact that if you break it up, you're not going to have a problem. But for years, we've been hearing how bad MMR is as a combination. And I'm very happy that you broke out chickenpox, because that was really a problem. And there are other things. It's interesting because there are other things, we were talking about it, other different drugs, pills that you take that we know are so bad and they don't take them anymore. But for some reason, with this, they keep taking it. Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it. You'll be uncomfortable. It won't be as easy, maybe. But don't take it. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. And don't give it to the baby after the baby is born. And we have more than 3 years left. And I told Bobby and the doctors behind me, and they are so committed to this, I told them that this is the number one thing I want to do from you. And, we have something else called Favored Nations, where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,000%, by 900, 600, 500, 1,200. We're going to be reducing drug prices at levels never seen. It's called Favored Nations. We're going to be paying right now, we're like the garbage can for the rest of the world, and we have been for forever. We pay much higher for drugs than the rest of the world. We subsidize the rest of the world. We're not doing that anymore. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's bigger than anything. I told the story the other night that I was so proud in my first term that for the final year, drug prices went down 0.25%. And I was so proud. I said, why? I'm the first one to do it. I think it was 28 years, they said, where drug prices went down from the beginning of the term to the end. And I was so proud. I called a news conference. I said, you know, drug prices have gone down. First time it's happened in 28 years. You know what it was? 0.25%. I was so proud. Now we're going to have them go down from $100 a pill to $9 a pill. From $1,300 for a shot of like an Ozempic or the fat, I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. Sometimes it works, I guess, for people. The ones I've seen, it hasn't worked so well. I got a lot of friends, they're fat. They said, yeah, I lost some weight. I said, you don't look it to me. But they paid $1,300, $1,200, and they go to London and they pay $88. And they call me, they go, what's this all about? We're subsidizing the rest of the world stupidly because we have a lot of stupid people in this country running things. And how big is that? But to me, that's nothing compared to autism. I see that gorgeous boy. I have a big present for him in the back. You know, you bring him back. We're going to bring him into the Oval Office. I have the best present he's ever going to get, okay? A big one. I saved it for you, okay? Because I heard you were coming. Look how beautiful he is. So that's it. There's nothing much to say. Don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant. And don't give Tylenol to your child when he's born or she's born. Don't give it. Just don't give it. And we're going to have, I think, really, if you do all the things that I say, break it up. Just break it up. Break up the shots with the doctor. MMRs, as I told you, separate. Chickenpox already separate. You do these things. I'm telling you, I want to, when I leave office, I don't want to have, it's going to be the kind of number that we're hearing where it's 1 in 32 or 1 in 10, because I've heard 1 in 10 also. And in California, it's really bad. I want it to be, let's get it back to maybe 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 or maybe none in 20,000. And the only way you're going to do that, because this is artificially induced. This is induced by something. You don't go from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000, then to 1 in 10. That means you're taking something and something's wrong. And I feel very certain, and I know I'll be criticized. Someday they'll look back and they'll say, well, it wasn't, but I think it will. I think we're going to have a tremendous, this is the most important thing. There's nothing more important than me. We cured inflation that Biden gave us. He gave us so much inflation, the biggest ever in history. We got inflation done. We brought prices down. We gave you the largest tax cuts. All that stuff, it doesn't mean a thing compared to what we're doing today. This means everything. So we're going to save a lot of children from a tough life, really tough life. We're going to save a lot of parents from a tough life. Okay, how about a few questions? Let's just make it on this subject. This is so beyond as a subject that I'd rather not talk about, some nonsense on the economy. And I will say this, the economy is unbelievable. The stock market just hit another record high and all that stuff. This means more to me. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I have one on your announcement, one on vaccines that's also related.
Yes.
Why do you think we haven't heard more previously about the tie to autism and acetaminophen?
Nobody knows. I don't know. Not only that, when you say it, you get attacked. I was saying something similar, not as strongly, because now facts are on our side. But I was saying it with Bobby 20 years ago, and I was attacked. I said, whoa, what was that all about? I had no idea. You get attacked. I don't know. The medical community, the drug companies, doctors. I don't know what it is. All I want to do, I don't care. I don't care about being attacked. It doesn't matter to me. I believe that the numbers at the end of our term or shortly thereafter could be really phenomenal. I want it to go up just like it came down to this horrible level. 1 in 10, 1 in 12. I was told 1 in 10. I was told 1 in 12. Today I heard 1 in 31 if you add the girls and the boys together. It's crazy. And it was 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 20,000. It's not even sustainable for a country. You want to know the truth. And there are other places that don't have it. And they have things in common. And that's called medical research. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I'm curious, as you look at the trend lines,
yeah,
how much of this is the causation of acetaminophen and how much is sort of better diagnosis, doctors, researchers having a better understanding of what is on the autism spectrum?
Do you want to do that? Sure, go ahead, bro.
That's one of the canards that has been promoted by the industry for many years, that it's changed diagnostic criteria, better recognition. But there's been study after study done of that completely debunks that. One of them by the Mind Institute at UC Davis, University of California. But also it's just common sense, because you're only seeing this in people who are under 50 years of age. If it were better recognition or diagnosis, you'd see it in 70-year-old men. I've never seen this happening in people my age. I've never seen a case of full-blown autism, and that means profound autism. I want to be very careful. Head banging, stimming, toe walking, nonverbal, non-toilet trained. I've never in my life seen a 70-year-old man who looks like that. You're only seeing it in the kids. It's an epidemic.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was hoping that you could clear up confusion for moms and dads across America, many of whom voted for you. There's a statement that was put out by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and in their statement, they write, acetaminophen remains a safe, trusted option for pain relief during pregnancy, and that's at odds with what you said and with what many of the experts say. How do you clear up this confusion?
That's the establishment. They're funded by lots of different groups. And you know what? Maybe they're right. I don't think they are, because I don't think the facts bear it out at all. They're fighting for something that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be fighting for. But here's the thing. There's no downside to doing, other than a mother will have to, as I say, tough it out a little bit. There's no downside to doing this. It's not like, oh, if you do this, you're going to die. There's no downside. There's no downside to going over a 4-year or a 5-year period or a 3-year period, or even if you space them out for 6 months, you space it out. There's no downside. And that's why I will say the gentleman behind me, they have very strong views, and they feel that we're right, but they'll have more research done over the next 2 months. I said, well, 2 months is a long time. A lot of people could be saved, and there's no downside to doing it. Everything I said, there's no downside to doing it. It can only be good. And I think you're going to see very good results. That's establishment stuff, and we've been reading that about a lot of things for years. And you know what's happened? We've gone from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 32 to 1 in 10. Think of it. 1 in 10 or 12 or 1 in 31. Think of it. 1 in 31 people, young kids, get autism? What is it, Jeff?
My question is about leucovorin. You mentioned that as part of your plan. That is also a chemotherapy treatment. Have you been in touch with the drug companies to increase production about that? And I'm going to throw in my follow-up at the same time. Dr. Oz mentioned that this will be available with CHIP, children who are on CHIP. But the big beautiful bill reduced funding for CHIP and Medicaid by $1 trillion over the next 10 years. Are you concerned that that will impact your ability to get this drug out?
I'll explain it to you in a second, but please go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leucovorin is not a chemotherapy, but it is a vitamin given with chemotherapy sometimes. And the idea here is that the folic acid receptor in the brain is blocked by some antibody response. It might be 20, 40, 50% of kids with autism. And leucovorin will bypass that blocked receptor. And that's why so many doctors are probably seeing so much clinical improvement on kids with leucovorin.
Production.
Yeah, we've been in touch with the companies, and they are prepared to ramp up production, and we actually talked to them about a month ago.
And on your second part of your nasty question, the number is that the great big beautiful bill, which is the greatest, I think the one of the best things ever passed in the history, with the tax cuts and regulation cuts and all of the things it does. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. All of it does. It also gives $200 million, as just explained by Dr. Oz. And I'd like you to explain that, to exactly what you're saying.
The Big Beautiful Bill actually increases Medicaid spending projected over the next 10 years by $200 billion. There's also a $50 billion rural health transformation fund, which will allow a lot of these programs to get in the rural parts of the country that the president and Congress are handing to governors to start distributing. Those grants have already gone out. The money will be allocated by the end of this calendar year. And I want to point out that the ability of NIH to do research that feeds and hands the ball to the FDA, which then can change labeling to allow Medicaid programs in states to fund this program, will ensure that the things that President Trump and Secretary Kennedy desire are financially affordable for the families around America.
You mentioned CHIP, sir. That's why I asked that question. You mentioned that CHIP would fund this for children.
But most of the kids are on Medicaid, probably 43% on Medicaid, another 8-10% on CHIP. And all the programs in general are being evaluated. Most of what the One Big Beautiful Bill was seeking to do was to remove fraud, waste, and abuse. But the programs themselves should stay financially intact for the people for whom they were designed, and in this case, for children.
And the only thing we cut, so that's $200 billion positive. The only thing we cut was for fraud, waste, and abuse, of which there was a lot in this country, and nobody minds that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you said that there is no reason to give newborn babies hepatitis B vaccines. But hepatitis B can be contracted not just through sexually transmitted diseases, in terms of needles to open wounds. So when you say you feel, is that appropriate to be telling?
I think it's absolutely appropriate. I think they should wait till they're 12 years old. Yes, please.
Mr. President, thank you all for being here. You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines. Would you like other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out, like MMRV?
What is this again?
You've been talking.
Speak up, please.
Sir. You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines.
Right. Correct.
Would you like the other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out, like MMRV?
I would say yes, but that just is, for me, it's a lot of common sense involved in this. It's a process, but we're looking, but it should at least be given separately. Now, it's possible that you can reduce them and I'd give them in small doses, but it's possible maybe in that particular case, the MMR wouldn't work in small doses, but you can certainly give them as separate shots. It's been proven to be very safe when you give them in separate shots instead of mixing. So I don't think there's any reason to do that. Do you agree with it? I'm not a doctor, but I'm giving my opinion. I don't think there's any reason to do that. So it's been proven to be safe when you break them up. But MMR by itself, I've heard bad things about it for many years. Yes, please.
Is the spectrum too broad, in your opinion? For research purposes, you are dealing with a population of children who might have social boundary difficulties, and then you have children who are, going to grow up to be adults in diapers. What do you think?
We don't know how broad the spectrum is. We don't know exactly where it starts and where it ends, but we do know what we're going through. We're going through some very serious trouble, and we know autism. I mean, it could be bigger, it could be small, a little bit smaller. But the number is unacceptable. And the number, the way it's come down, because the spectrums remain the same, the number, the way it's come down is just unacceptable, meaning come down to that level of 1 in 10, 1 in 12, 1 in 31.
Mr. President, medical professionals.
Go ahead in the back.
Mr. President, this question is more directed towards Secretary Kennedy. It was talked about that we're just kind of finding out about the fact that babies are affected this way. Is there a concern that information is being suppressed right now within HHS, and could an investigation perhaps be launched seeing any more?
Well, I think information has been really not given out very freely over the years, absolutely. And I think that's by drug companies and maybe doctors, but I certainly think that over the years. I think this is a different group. We have a lot of information. And that information, I mean, it's the information that we have that we're making these statements. And I'm making them out front, and I'm making them loud, and I'm making them strongly not to take Tylenol, not to take it. Just don't take it unless it's absolutely necessary, and there's not too many cases where that will be the case. And again, what's the worst? The worst is nothing can happen. It's very positive. That's a positive thing. But I don't believe I don't actually believe that's possible. I think the results are going to be amazing. I want to see amazing results by the time I leave this beautiful building. And I will consider this, I believe, with the wars, I've stopped 7 different wars. I've saved millions of lives. I've done a lot of things. This will be as important as any single thing I've done, because I know ladies, beautiful ladies just like this that are going through the same thing. And it's not easy, and I admire you for being able to do it. But I admire him, too. I wish I had a face that looked like that. If I looked like Kim, I would have been president a long time ago.
Is widely used in other countries, too. As you make this announcement, do you expect your decision may affect
I
other
hope they
countries?
follow it, yeah. I hope they follow it. Yeah, other countries are, sell Tylenol. Some countries don't. I mean, I hear Cuba. Now, again, you'll have to check this out. But I hear Cuba doesn't have it because it's very expensive. And they don't have the money to have it, or they don't want to spend the money to have it. They don't have Tylenol. And I hear they have essentially no autism. So you'll have to check it out. Yeah, right.
Medical professionals have warned for decades.
I said, no, not you. You're CNN. You're fake news. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to go back to the Amish community, if I can, just for a second. I recently saw a man from Minnesota, an Amish man from Minnesota, on a podcast, and the host asked him what the rates were for like ADHD and autism, and he had no idea about ADHD, didn't know that it existed, and certainly didn't know of any cases. What are they doing?
It doesn't exist with the Amish community, and they don't take all of this junk. It doesn't exist. That tells you, doesn't that tell you? That's like certain countries where it doesn't exist and they don't take it. Would you like to make a comment about that, Mark?
The Amish population, a very mixed group. So there's a subset that take vaccines, a subset that does not. And we know they have very low rates of chronic disease all across the board.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Should the establishment media show at least some openness to, trying to figure out what the causes of autism are?
I wish they would, yeah.
And why are they so closed-minded?
Well, look, it's not only the media, in all fairness, it's some people. When you talk about vaccines, they go crazy. And, I'm a big supporter of vaccines. I got a certain vaccine approved in 9 months that would have taken from 5 to 12 years. I'm very proud of it. A lot of people think it was one of the greatest things I've done, and some people think, mostly Republicans, actually. I'll tell you, the Democrats think they think Operation Warp Speed was one of the greatest things any president has done, any president. It's, we're very proud of what happened. We got hit with something that came from a place that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. Those things take place, and you're very unpleasantly surprised. But no, I'm a big believer in vaccines. The polio vaccine, big believer in vaccines. I know Bobby and you guys have it out a little bit, but he's a believer in vaccines too. But I've seen how great vaccines can be, how incredible they can be. So I'm a believer. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Your comments made about MMR and hepatitis B, and you said those were your suggestions, but have you spoken with Secretary Kennedy about actually making those changes?
I have, yeah, I have. I've spoken to all the doctors about it, and doctors that are not here right now. I've spoken to many doctors about everything we're talking about. And, the Tylenol has started to be spoken of over the last period of time, but we've been doing the research. A lot of what they've been speaking about comes from right here, by research done by these people. And I just say it again. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. And don't give it to your child after your child is born. And do all those other things, little things, just spread out your visits, et cetera, on the vaccine. And I want to thank everybody. This is a very important day. Thank you very much.
Will you meet with the Democratic leader, sir?
He's not going to answer my question.
I'm muted. Now I am not muted. Hang on a moment here. Okay. Hold on. Turn this down a little bit.
All right.
That was President Trump and officials' announcement about autism. And so one thing I want to mention that happened is there were some official announcements about autism, but President Trump made a number of recommendations which were not mentioned by the other officials and do not appear on the graphic that the White House released about an hour ago. So personally, I think there's going to be confusion as to what the official announcements are and what President Trump's announcement are. And at one point he said, this is coming from me and not from them. So I can understand if you have some confusion about what exactly the official announcement is. For example, he suggested not taking the MMR vaccine and breaking it up into separate vaccines. The MMR vaccine is a single vaccine against measles, mumps, and rubella. Now, I did not hear any other officials suggesting that. It does not appear on the official graphic about it. He also said that the hepatitis B vaccine, if I have this right, is that the one he mentioned, hepatitis B vaccine for babies? He said that that should not be taken by kids until they're 12 years old. Again, I didn't hear another official say that. I didn't see it on the official graphic, which I'll show you. So those are things he said repeatedly, which seem to be coming from him personally, just to be clear. So I'm just trying to clarify what was said. I'm going to show you the official White House Autism Action Plan. He also said, President Trump, don't take Tylenol and don't give it to your babies. That's not quite what the official recommendation says. Okay, so anyways, here, let me show you guys. We're going to take some comments from you guys. Let me show you the White House graphic, which shows what they said. This is the Autism Action Plan right here. That's the graphic. Okay, so this was posted by the White House about an hour ago. So basically, there's two parts of this which match the reporting of what the announcement was going to be. Part one is that the White House is suggesting there might be a tie between acetaminophen. It doesn't say Tylenol. Tylenol has acetaminophen, but you can buy it in generic form, for example. You can buy it in other forms. Between acetaminophen and a possible association between acetaminophen and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes. They don't even use the word, they say autism here, but they don't even use it right here. So there's that, and then there's also making a drug, leucovorin, available for children with autistic symptoms. So let me just go over this. This is the official announcement. This is the official recommendation right here. This is the official one. You can see FDA will issue a physician notice and initiate a safety label change on acetaminophen, which Tylenol has. Research shows a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes. Prudent use is needed during pregnancy and for infants and toddlers. This does not say there is definitely a cause and effect relationship. It says there's a potential association. It does not say we're recommending don't take it. It says prudent use is needed during pregnancy and for infants and toddlers. So that's very different than what President Trump said. You heard him say it again and again and again. Don't take it and don't give it to babies. Also, HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. 2, making therapeutic available. FDA will act to establish the first recognized therapeutic, leucovorin, for children with cerebral folate deficiency and autistic symptoms. Following FDA's action, state Medicaid programs will be able to cover leucovorin for autism spectrum disorder. NIH will launch confirmatory trials and new research into the impact of leucovorin. So I'm not a medical expert. I'm not a doctor. I don't know about the research on leucovorin. We read you an article, one article we showed you from today from the Washington Post about leucovorin here, talked about some promising leucovorin research, but said that this drug was in an early stage of research. So for example, it says here, one neurologist studying leucovorin said we're still on the 10-yard line with this research on this leucovorin, suggesting the research is still near the beginning of the process. He says it's something we think might be able to help a lot of children. Again, I'll have to wait and see what the scientific and research community says about approving leucovorin for use for and covering it, state Medicaid covering it for autism spectrum disorder. Also, the third item on the official action plan document, which you can see in front of you, the official one, the third item is, through the Autism Data Science Initiative, NIH will be funding 13 projects totaling more than a $50 million investment to transform autism research. So there's nothing I've seen officially from the White House that says officially they're recommending the hepatitis B vaccine not be taken until kids are 12 years old. There's nothing I've seen officially from the White House that says officially the administration is recommending not taking the MMR vaccine and instead taking numerous separate vaccines instead of the MMR vaccine. Those are two things that President Trump recommended. There's nothing I've seen from the administration officially that says don't take Tylenol ever. If you're a pregnant woman, don't give it to your baby. I mean, it doesn't say it right here. It says prudent use is needed during pregnancy and for infants and toddlers. So perhaps there will be some official clarification issued from the White House about what were President Trump's personal recommendations and what are the official administration recommendations. I'm assuming these are the official ones because this is from the White House and it says Autism Action Plan. But clearly, numerous things President Trump recommended are nowhere appear on this. Anyways, so I just say I'm guessing they will want to clarify it because someone might watch the press conference or read about the press conference and they hear President Trump saying something and they think, oh, this must be coming from all of the administration officials. So they might clarify it. I don't know. Mr. Joachim says, where are the studies? Where can I read about this? You have nothing, I promise. Been in this field for 25 years. So I do not know if President Trump was basing his recommendations on certain studies. At one point, he said something, when he was talking about one of his recommendations, he said something like that. Where is it here? Like, he mentioned common sense. He said that. As if it was common sense. I think he appealed to common sense a couple of times. But I don't want to put words in his mouth about, maybe he has studies that he's heard of that we don't know about. Or that he didn't specifically mention. He also claimed multiple times that there is no autism in Cuba. He called it a rumor, but at some point, but then he seemed to suggest that This was something he believed. And said that in Cuba they can't afford Tylenol and there's no autism there. He also, I think, said something similar about the Amish community. I am not a medical expert, so I cannot address those claims. Anyways, we might show you some of what he said again, because again, I don't want to misrepresent what he's saying. But, I mean, it seems like a pretty big deal that the president just recommended don't take the MMR vaccine, take separate vaccines. I think MMR vaccine is pretty widely used. I mean, the CDC literally says on their website right now, 2 doses of the MMR vaccine are recommended by doctors as the best way to protect against measles, mumps, and rubella. I'm just looking at the CDC site. So this is President Trump said, don't take the MMR vaccine. But I believe a lot of people get that. Let's see here. So I can tell you that I Googled it. Here. Here it is right here. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm giving you the right information. Is it in here? Blah, 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 blah. I Googled it and I got a very high result, but I want to find actually a reliable, just make sure I know where that's coming from. Anyways, and I think it's important. So Cleveland Clinic says kids usually get 1 dose of MMR vaccine between 12 and 15 months and another between the ages of 4 and 6. I think it's quite widely distributed. I mean, it's quite widely taken. Yeah, Cleveland Clinic says the CDC recommends that children get 2 doses of the MMR vaccine. Oh, oops. You know what? When I typed officials in, I had a typo in. Oh, no. I changed the headline in the middle, and I didn't realize I had a typo. Thanks for letting me know. Anyways, so I don't know why it's so difficult to find the actual figure. So Google says in the US, the CDC reports 90.6% of children in 2021 received at least 1 MMR vaccine dose by 24 months. So if that's true, I got it right here. I think, let's see here. Do we have the MMR? No. Okay, anyways, I don't want to hold up the whole stream for this, but this is a popular vaccine, and President Trump just said don't take it and break it up into different doses. And again, into different vaccines. And I'm not aware that that's not part of the official announcement, and none of the other officials said it. And in terms of the hepatitis V vaccine, I'm trying to figure out how many people get that. But he said, don't take that until you're 12. He said it repeatedly. Yes, so this is heavy hepatitis B perinatal vaccine information. Beginning at birth, all infants should receive the hepatitis B vaccine series. This is on the CDC website currently. Now, perinatal is weeks immediately before and after birth. CDC website, all infants should receive a dose of hepatitis B vaccine at birth, regardless of the HBV infection status of the birth parent. So something else President Trump said is nobody should get it until age 12. So just to be clear, the CDC current website, now I don't know if it's going to be changed, says all babies should get it at birth, the hepatitis B vaccine, and also recommends the MMR vaccine for babies. And just to clarify, you might say, why are you talking about this, Steve? Because he mentioned this multiple times, very strongly. He gave these two recommendations. They were not, and by the way, it wasn't, it didn't seem to me that he was giving these recommendations related to autism. He was saying things like, well, we pump so much stuff into little babies. So it wasn't clear to me that he was saying that the MMR vaccine and the hepatitis B vaccine, it wasn't clear to me that he was saying they cause autism. Just to be clear, because it was an autism announcement. That was so I don't want to say that he was saying that would prevent autism, but he was clearly saying that he thought that people shouldn't take the combined MMR vaccine and no one should take the hepatitis B until age 12. So he said this repeatedly. And these two vaccines, MMR and also for babies and hepatitis B for babies, I just showed you. Literally, the CDC recommends them on their current website. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. And I'm bringing it up because it might have been not part of the official announcement, but it was emphasized a lot by President Trump, and people might be confused about what was his and what was the official announcement. So I want to talk about that as well. I want to take some comments from you guys too. But my point, another thing is that this is a huge thing, right? So these are two, from everything I can tell, they're certainly officially recommended by the CDC and widely given vaccines. So I think it's big news that the president just made these two recommendations repeatedly during this press conference, even if it's not the official administration recommendation. Like that alone would be a huge, forget the stuff about the Tylenol and the leucovorin. If he had just come out and made an announcement about those two recommendations, that would be huge news in and of itself. One of our viewers, Ma Moodle, mentioned the stock for Kenvue. Kenvue makes Tylenol. Kenvue stock had gone down 7.5% today, and it had gone down over 17% in September. Now, the stock went up after hours. The stock is up around 5%. So I don't know why the stock has gone up after hours around 5%. I could think of various things. I mean, it would seem that maybe investors thought this would be a worse announcement for Tylenol than it was. I don't know. I got to take some comments from you guys, but I just wanted to, there was a lot to clarify after that. It was quite a striking press conference. It was quite interesting to see. Announcement and press conference. It was also interesting because I was watching, I had 3 different news channels up. For a lot of it, neither Fox nor MSNBC nor CNN was covering it for a lot of it. Maybe they covered the beginning of it. I think CNN was covering the beginning of it. But for a lot of it, nobody was covering it. Which was interesting. The headline right now on Reuters is Trump links autism with Tylenol, backs folic acid as a treatment. Well, specifically, leucovorin, a form of folic acid. You know what I'm going to put on the screen? I'm going to put the recommendations from the official White House graphic, and I'm going to take some comments from you guys. It was really striking, though, again, just because what President Trump said went so far beyond what the official announcement was and had some very important recommendations made very forcefully by President Trump that none of the officials made and that don't seem to be official White House recommendations. All right, that right there is the official document. He said many times, don't take Tylenol. Kay Russ said Trump said his comments were his alone. Well, at one point I heard him say, or once or twice I heard him say something like that. But, I mean, not everybody is going to... First of all, a regular American person, if they hear the president say something, they might just assume that, well, it's a press conference, the president's saying this is an official recommendation. The officials agree. Also, most Americans are not going to watch the, how long was it, an hour or so, appearance and find the 2 or 3 maybe or something, short 2 or 3 comments where President Trump says that. So, people very well might see a clip of President Trump talking about one of these recommendations he made that were not the official recommendations and never see this when he said, I guess at least a couple of times, but it was pretty brief, that these are his recommendations. Now, Mary R. says the point is his strong recommendations carry absolutely no harm for the women and the kids. Okay, so I want to address that. Thanks for bringing that up. He said for his... Now, I don't know. I'd have to go back and see exactly. But he certainly said a couple times, like, there's no harm in not taking Tylenol. I think he said there's no harm in splitting up the vaccines. I think he said there's no harm... splitting up MMR, there's no harm waiting until you're 12. I want to address that. Now, I'm not a doctor or medical. I'm guessing that you might hear pushback on that. So, for example, let me just show you about the hepatitis B vaccine, what the CDC says. I think they say something about this. Hang on. I had an article which talked about this. Okay. So, for example, the University of Michigan has a document, why do kids need the Hep B vaccine? Newborns need a vaccine, why? So, the University of Michigan has a document that says infected mothers can pass the virus on to their babies during childbirth. Okay? They say that also the younger someone is when they get hepatitis B disease, the worse the consequences. Kids don't show symptoms like adults do. If infected at a young age, kids are more likely to go undiagnosed and become a chronic carrier of the virus. Chronic carriers have lifelong problems and issues from this infection. So just from reading this Michigan document, they gave a couple of things in that document, a couple of reasons why actually, if you're not vaccinated as a baby, it could be harmful for you to not receive that until you're 12 years old. That's just one example. Now, so in terms of the MMR vaccine, it's a vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella. I'd be interested in hearing from experts. Is one reason they like remember the CDC recommends this vaccine? Is one reason that they like the MMR vaccine is that you don't have to go back. So President Trump said he suggested splitting it up to, 3, 4, 5 visits to the doctor to get the different vaccines rather than get the combined MMR vaccine. But, I mean, if somebody, for whatever reason, is willing to go to the doctor to get the MMR, but if they don't get the MMR and they split it up and they have to go to the doctor a bunch more times, right? And for whatever reason, they don't make it into the doctor. Maybe some people, it's hard to get them to go to that doctor that many times. Maybe they're busy or whatever. I don't know. But if it turns out that if you switch from the MMR to separate vaccines that require a bunch more trips to the doctor, if that ends up lowering the overall rate of vaccination coverage, it could lead to fewer kids getting fully vaccinated. That's just one possibility. I don't know. I don't have the statistics on it, but you could just imagine that it did. Yeah, the MMR is a combination of 3 vaccines in one shot. Oh, and then regarding the comment he made that there's no downside to just not taking Tylenol if you're a pregnant woman. I'm not a medical expert and I'm not making these claims myself. I'm just giving you some possible responses to this. So Ashish Jha, who was used to be the dean of the Brown University School of Public Health. He also served as the White House COVID response coordinator in 2022 to 2023. And he also has been a professor at Harvard School of Public Health. He posted today, Ashish Jha, that, where is it here? he said that acetaminophen is the only widely recommended pain reliever considered safe in pregnancy. Okay, so if that's true, then a downside of them not taking it is that, of pregnant women not taking it at all, would be that they don't, it's the only widely recommended pain reliever considered safe in pregnancy. So again, I'm just giving you, these are arguments that could be made against the claim that there's no downside to following any of these recommendations. But I'm not telling you what to think. Oh, Faytux News says Copenhagen police in 70 minutes will hold a press conference on the drone situation at Copenhagen airport. Also, in Oslo, Norway, there are aircraft holding due to drone observation in the vicinity of the airfield. That's from Flight Radar 24. Earlier, the Copenhagen police said that 2 or 3 large drones had been in the area of the airport. And the airport had been shut down. Yeah, this is from Copenhagen Airport. Look. They said there are still, about an hour ago, the Copenhagen Airport said there are still unidentified drones around Copenhagen Airport, therefore no planes can take off or land. Incoming flights are being diverted to other airports and departing flights are delayed or canceled. Passengers are asked to check. So that's going on. Let me check something else here. Trying to keep you updated on that as well. I think maybe what we should do, I think maybe what we should do is do a different stream on the drone situation. But I'm going to have to, if that happens, I'm going to want to wrap this up and do a new stream. Okay. By the way, a couple quick thank yous. Nick Knack, Rural Autist, Will Geo, Benny Boy, Mr. Joaquim 242, Bambi, Will Glow, Pickled Witch, Randy. I owed a couple thank yous here to people. Mr. Joaquim, Aleph Tav, Noah, Megan Lorenzen, Martin Gingrich, Concan15, Kerry's Blessed, Sean Morris, Lewis R, Q Dong, Spicy Tuna Roll, Rita Scar, P.A. Jeeper, Daciaran, guy from the 207 on Twitch, Who Shot JR, Oxytropus. All right, why don't I do that? Let me do that. I do want to cover that, but I gotta get on that fast. So I'm sorry because we didn't get to take nearly enough viewer comments here after the Trump announcement and talk about it enough. But I gotta cover that. So I'm gonna get off the air real quick and cover that. Okay, let me get off the air real quick and cover the drone situation, and I'll come back in a few minutes and I'll put a new stream up for the drone situation. Okay, but I gotta just go do that. So the one thing I could do is I could maybe set it up right now, and then you're automatically taken there. But that might be a bit more difficult to do. No, I'm just going to get off the air and set up a new stream. So let me really quick, I want to thank our moderators. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you watching the stream. I'm sorry to have to cut this off. I wanted to get more of your comments, but we got to go cover that. So thank you to our moderators who have been here. Much appreciated. We're going to start a new stream shortly, but shout out Twitch, Bash and Girl, Serrero, Good Luck Duck, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, McBridges, Rift Track, Surly Dev, thank you. And Kay Lowry Body, Paul Anderson, and Margaret Riley over on Facebook. Anybody else I'm missing over there? Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, Charlotte Webb, thanks for moderating. And all of our YouTube moderators, Ruth Krafasi and the others, thanks Nick Knack for your support. And everybody who donated, thank you. All right, so let me get off the air. I'm going to start a new stream in a few minutes. I just got to set it up, okay? So give me a few minutes. We'll start a new stream, and we'll talk about the drone situation. All right? So thanks for joining us. I hope to see you in a few minutes right back here with more live coverage on Agenda Free TV.